Well, good morning. One of the advantages of being the fourth speaker is that the previous organisations have been able to set the scene in terms of trends. So I won't spend too much time on the first few slides repeating what you've already heard. You know, I think the other thing is that there's different tracks here at the conference: big data, Internet of Things, cloud, disruptive technologies. You're lucky because I'm going to incorporate all of these things into today's presentation, and all in 20 minutes. All right, so I think one of the earlier presentations talked about the three waves of computing with the first, second and third platform. I won't go through those again. Essentially, this new wave is about the third platform. It's the digital era. It's where you have the Internet of Things, big data, cloud and social trends and mobile that needs to be incorporated into your next generation platforms that will allow you to create new business models and new customer experiences. At the same time, expectations that are often driven by these consumer internet companies have risen. You know, the business expects you to be able to, IT to be able to do things faster. Your customers expect more and more from you. At the same time, the IT budgets have remained constant, and on average, 70 to 80% of an IT budget is spent on keeping the lights on maintenance, and only 30% for innovation. So things need to change in order for you to compete with this third wave and third platform. Just having a bit of trouble here with the clicker. No? Let's go back over here. But don't worry, the consumer internet companies like Facebook and Google have been doing this stuff for years. So whilst the third platform is new for the enterprise, it's not new in terms of other organisations like Facebook and Google who have adopted them. So what do these consumer internet giants do? What have they been able to do? First and foremost, they've been able to store and reason over large amounts of data. And so if you think about Google search, you know, you type in Google search, it comes back instantaneously, it learns. If you type in Taiwan, then it'll learn from others and help personalise your experience. That type of capability needs to be in the enterprise. The second thing that they've been able to do is operate and automate at scale. So they use cheap commodity hardware and they can scale up and scale down as required. They're also able to continuously provide new capabilities without bringing the system down. So the internet is never down. That type of agility and value add to your end customers is important. And then lastly, they use agile development techniques. So Facebook will say that a new developer can provide and publish a new feature on day one. Now, 1 day development cycle is probably not realistic in the enterprise, but certainly bringing it down from a waterfall approach to months and years to small scale, constant value add is really, really important. So this is all very good in terms of consumer internet companies, but the enterprise have some slightly different requirements. So in addition to those requirements, they'll need to be able to operate across multiple clouds. The idea that there's only going to be one cloud and it's Jeff Bezos's cloud is not realistic. I see the Amazon person has arrived here. So you need flexibility and agility. Once you build the application, you need to be able to build it once and not care about the underlying infrastructure, be able to store some of that data within the application in public cloud, some in a private cloud. The infrastructure doesn't matter. Obviously, the other thing that the enterprises have is that they need to be able to interrupt with legacy applications. Unfortunately, all the years of investment in terms of these legacy applications can't be thrown out the window and you can't start again. And then obviously we've got connecting these devices and machines in terms of the new business models and experiences that they will enable and are enabling. So EMC and VMware have seen this trend and set up Pivotal about 12 months ago. And we took people and technology from EMC and VMware to create this new company called Pivotal. We started with 1,000 enterprise customers. We have today 1,900 employees. And our CEO, Paul Moretz, some of you may know him. He brought us the Office automation and operating system from Microsoft. He then went on to become the CEO of VMware and is now the CEO of Pivotal. And Pivotal is a software company that is helping enterprise and government build modern software applications that leverage both big and fast data technologies in a cloud-independent and agnostic way. In April last year, so we set up the company April 1st. At the end of April, we announced a third investor, General Electric. And you heard in the last presentation what GE thinks the market opportunity is for the Internet of Things or the industrial Internet. You know, $100 million of the numbers that were shown in the previous presentation represent new value-added services that they will provide to their customers. So what really matters? We think it comes down to three things. We think it's about building great cloud-enabled web and mobile applications. These applications generate data. That data needs to be analysed, and historically people have done that using historical analysis. Predictive analytics needs to be incorporated. You take those insights and you action them. So that could be feeding it back into the production line to improve your yields. It could be improving and personalising the user experience in a mobile banking application. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. The faster that you can go around that cycle, the more that you can learn, innovate, and adapt, the more successful you will be. So it's data-driven, and it needs to include both application data and analytics. So PivotalOne, we brought all these technologies together at the end of last year, and PivotalOne is a set of tools, services, and libraries that help organizations deploy, manage, and scale your applications. It's open source at its heart, so all the common developer open source techniques and tools are available. It is, a lot of developers, I think on average, spend 30% of their time coding and designing. So that means 70% of their time is spent on non-value added activities. This helps in terms of making your developers more productive. It reduces your time to value in terms of building applications. It also, so a good example is Time Warner. Time Warner estimate that on average they save $1 million for every application that they build. So I think in the Salesforce presentation they talked about PaaS. So this is an enterprise PaaS that incorporates big data technologies, which we'll talk about on the next slide, and it does in a way that it is cloud independent. You can run it in your private data center, you can run it in the public cloud, you get to choose what infrastructure you want to use. So we are in the big data track, so I thought I'd just share a little bit in terms of the big data architecture. So unlike other offerings, this is one suite, one platform that will handle all of your use cases, whether they be batch, real-time, near real-time. It allows you to use them in multiple ways. So take those insights and incorporate them into a mobile app, into a production line. It doesn't matter what industry. It's open source at its heart, and the idea is that you store everything. So we do not tax you for storing the data. You analyze what you need, and then you build the right service or application to take advantage of that insight. Let's look at a real example, though. GE is both a shareholder and a customer, and this is an example that incorporates structured data, unstructured data. It incorporates multiple geographical locations, so using cloud technology, so distributed systems. None of these individual pieces on the architecture slide are that unique or that leading edge. So people stream data, people do analysis. That's all there's many examples where this has been used and done before. But what is unique is doing this all together. So this particular example is around a power generation network. So it's often quite normal to do analysis on one machine, but connecting these all together is also quite unique. Taking what's happening now and looking at the historical analysis and actually determining what you're going to do in terms of insight in the moment is quite unique. So there's 100,000 events per second, 1.2 million sensors in this one example, and 1,500 turbines. So that's a good example of what the PivotalOne platform can help organisations with. Another example, and this one is different industry. It's really looking at how you actually price futures contracts or predicting the prices of raw materials. And I chose this one because sentiment analysis, I think there's a lot of organisations that haven't seen value with sentiment analysis. And in futures contracts, people have been using analytics for years. But what they haven't been doing is incorporating the sentiment of farmers. So in this particular example, they incorporated the sentiment of farmers, and they found that there was a direct correlation between the volume of tweets and the problem statement and the pricing of grain. So it sounds pretty obvious, right? But no one was doing it before. And this is quite impactful in terms of the price that they actually lock in those futures contracts. This is another example, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in. If you're a large enterprise, then security and cybersecurity is important. And in this particular example, it's looking at user accounts, it's looking for malicious users, or people that have actually taken over those malicious accounts. It's using data science and machine learning and connected machines to actually look at this behaviour. Your out-of-the-box application cannot model and look at the behaviour. So it's making sure that there's no one inside your network that is not using resources appropriately, trying to prevent data from being stolen, like what's recently happened at Target and eBay. And I think for this example, and we've done this at multiple large enterprises, but one of them was a financial services enterprise, and what they actually found 5 different users where there appeared to be a problem. When they analysed it further, 3 of them had already been fired, and wouldn't you hate to be the other 2? So turning back to providing productivity and making your developers more productive in terms of the applications that they bring to market, one of the things that the consumer internet companies have been able to do is constantly provide new capabilities with no downtime. And at Pivotal, this technology is called Cloud Foundry. And Cloud Foundry was created by some ex-Google engineers at VMware. It's an open source project, and we brought the commercial product to market at the end of last year. You can see that there's quite a following in terms of large organisations that have found value in reducing their time to value for building those applications. So Rakuten, Japanese e-commerce company, saved 90%. Intel talks about from idea to production in a day. You've got Silver Springs in the smart utility, smart metering industry. There's many more organisations that have adopted Cloud Foundry. And one of the things that we did earlier this year was created a foundation. And this is an open governance foundation, similar to what happened with Linux. So with Linux, 20, 30 years ago, no one would have believed that Linux would be the standard or one of the major standards in the enterprise. We have the same hope and aspirations with Cloud Foundry. So if cloud is the new computer, then Cloud Foundry is the new operating system. And there's many large organizations that are placing their bets on Cloud Foundry. IBM, SAP, HP, Rackspace, Ericsson, Accenture, NTT, Baidu in China uses Cloud Foundry. Many, many organizations that believe that Cloud Foundry will be the operating system of the future and where developers should go to build their applications. So, companies are placing their bets. There'll be winners and losers. There is disruption in the market. Some people might be sitting here thinking, well, I'm not really sure that this is relevant to me. My industry is quite traditional. My industry is not going to change. Who would have thought that even 10 years ago that these companies would be where they are today? Many of you may have used Uber to actually go from the airport to the hotel. Or Uber, where was Uber 5, 10 years ago? And look at how it has disrupted the transportation industry. Organisations like Square and Alipay have disrupted and are disrupting the payments industry. The CEO of BBVA, which is the second largest Spanish bank, says that we really need to compete with Google and Amazon. It's not the other banks that I'm worried about, it's Google and Amazon. So things are changing and industries are being disrupted. Another good example that is a pivotal example is Monsanto. Monsanto acquired a company called the Climate Control, which looks at weather patterns and impacts on weather. Obviously, Monsanto's in the agri-business, and for them, they're actually using and putting sensors on their machines, on their tractors, so that they're looking, and they've actually plotted out within a 10 centimetre radius different crops and plantations so that they can work out the optimal water flow, they can work out how deep they need to actually plant the seeds to actually optimise the yield on the crop. So it's predicted that in 30 years we'll have a food shortage. About half of that can be solved by using smart technology and smart techniques. So how ready is your organisation? How are you going to compete with organisations that are leveraging software and their applications to transform business models and consumer experiences? I often hear that from many companies, especially in Asia Pacific, that, okay, I can see all this good technology, but let's face it, there's no one in my organisation that will actually know how to use it. We've got this aspirational goal of being out here, but how do I get started? So we tell our customers that it doesn't really matter where you get started on the circle. Everyone is different. You might be trying to create a new consumer experience through a web application. You might be Samsung that's looking at optimizing yields on their production line. You might be a telco that's looking to provide value-based pricing and significant differentiations in terms of the services that you provide to your top enterprise customers. It doesn't matter where you start. You might want to build an app, you might want to set up a big data platform, you might want to start with data science and trying to solve and improve some of the models that you've had in your organisation for many years. It doesn't matter. Start small, experiment, fail fast, work out whether it's going to be successful. And we believe that with these new tools and techniques, people are key. And so we have 3 strategic accelerators that can help your organisations get started. The first is data science. and we have data scientists here in Asia Pacific. In fact, we've done data science projects in this region across many, many different countries. So we have data scientists that can work with your organisation. They can actually build a roadmap. They can solve one problem. Whatever it is, they can teach your organisation how to actually build these models using this type of technology, whatever makes sense. The second thing is Pivotal Labs. And Pivotal Labs is where we took the name Pivotal from. And Pivotal Labs was an acquisition that was done probably 2-3 years ago now. And they are the go-to, or were the go-to place for VCs in Silicon Valley, where they had companies that came to them with a great idea but didn't have the development capability. So they're the agile development team. They were the first contract that Google took outside of their own internal development. They helped Twitter fix their problems when they were having issues with their technology. Pivotal Labs is a way of teaching your organisation how to be agile and how to leverage the agile platform. So the idea in it is that we actually teach your organisations how to fish. We've been doing an engagement with a large Japanese manufacturer recently, and they're embarking on their industrial Internet of Things, connecting their machines, making them smarter, similar to GE. And they want to infect their entire development organisation into how to develop modern applications, leveraging the new technology as well as the methodology. So they're essentially swapping in and out, pairing their teams with our teams so that they work on a project that's meaningful to this organisation. That pair will come back the next quarter, they swap in the next pair. So it takes time to make changes in the organisation. Change is very difficult, and when you're using a new methodology, it's important that you train the trainer in terms of adopting that methodology. And then the last thing is the Pivotal Innovation Centre, and this is something that I have set up for Asia Pacific customers. It's actually that the hub is in Singapore, but really it's a virtual centre. It's a team of data scientists and architects that can help you prove your business case before you invest, as well as if you wanted to test out, prove that the technology is going to work in your environment or scale to what you need, then it's an innovation centre that allows you to get started at no cost. Try it out, pick a problem that you want to solve, come in and prove out the business case before you invest in technology and large-scale projects. So with that, I thank you for your time, and if you would like to hear more, or if you'd like to take a look at what we do, then you can see here the details. Yeah, this is really good. You can see here the details in terms of the website. I'd be happy to talk to you during the break if you had more questions. So thank you.